She married a 48-year-old stranger to save her family, but what she found in his mansion was a truth that broke her heart forever. The night was colder than usual when Ava Carter stepped out of the courthouse, her trembling fingers clutching the papers that had just signed away her future. The street was quiet, but her heartbeat wasn't. It roared inside her chest like a trapped animal. Behind her, the city went on with its ordinary life cars rushing, lights blinking, strangers laughing completely unaware that a 22-year-old girl had just been forced into the most impossible decision of her life. Ava pulled her thin shawl tighter around her shoulders and whispered to herself, "It's for Lily. It has to be." Lily Carter, 17 years old, bright, brilliant, soft-hearted, wrongly accused in a fabricated theft case she never knew existed. A case designed by a monster named Marcus Hale. The name alone made Ava's stomach twist. Everyone in Raven County knew him, the 70-year-old land baron who owned half the farms, the mills, and every politician's backbone. He was powerful, feared, untouchable. Stories about him wandered through the town like winter wind. He doesn't feel anything. He has no mercy. He lives alone in that giant estate like a king who lost his soul. Ava had never seen him until today. Until he made her a deal that felt like a nightmare spoken out loud. "Marry me, and your sister walks free." Ava had stared at him, her breath frozen, her thoughts shattering into 1,000 pieces. "Why me?" she whispered. Marcus's cold eyes had narrowed. "Because you have the one thing money can't buy." He paused. "Loyalty and courage. I need a wife with both." She had wanted to scream, cry, run. But Lily's face kept flashing in front of her. Her little sister sitting in a jail cell, terrified. Her sister who still slept with the lights on. Her sister who would never survive a scandal, let alone prison. Ava had signed the papers. Now, walking alone through the icy street, she wondered if she had signed her freedom, her happiness, and her heart away forever. By morning, the entire town knew. That's how Raven County worked. News didn't spread, it exploded. People whispered openly as Ava walked into the bakery to buy bread for Lily. That poor girl. She's so young. She won't survive in that mansion. He's a cruel man. No one ever leaves that estate the same. Ava kept her head low, trying not to let their words stab deeper. When she returned home, Lily ran to her, hugging her so tight it hurt. "Ava, they dropped the charges. The officer said you fixed everything. But how? What did you do?" Ava swallowed hard. She wanted to lie. She wanted to say it was a misunderstanding. She wanted to protect her sister's innocence one more time. But truth has a strange way of pressing against the ribs until it breaks out. "Lily, I made a deal." Lily's smile faded instantly. "What kind of deal?" Ava's voice cracked. "I'm getting married." Lily blinked, once, twice. "Married? To who?" Ava hesitated. Her throat burned. Her eyes filled before she could stop them. "Marcus Hale." Lily's breath vanished. The color drained from her face. No, Ava. That man, he's dangerous. He's older than Grandpa. You can't do this. Tell me this is a joke." Ava cupped her sister's cheeks. "It was the only way to save you. They set you up, Lily. They were going to ruin your life forever. I couldn't let that happen. Lily shook her head violently. No, I'd rather go to jail than let you marry him. Ava's smile was soft but heartbreaking. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't last a day in that place. I know you, Lily, and I would do again 1,000 times if it meant you would breathe freely. Lily's tears fell uncontrollably. Ava, you're sacrificing everything. Ava didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence told the whole story. The next afternoon, a black car arrived. Not shiny, not fancy. Just a dark, heavy presence on wheels. The driver, a tall, expressionless man in a gray suit, stepped out and opened the door. Miss Carter, he said, Mr. Hale is expecting you. Ava exhaled shakily. Lily held her hand. Please don't go. Ava squeezed back, forcing strength into a body that had none left. I'll be okay. She wasn't sure. Not at all. But she had to sound like she was. She climbed into the car. The door closed. The world outside faded. The mansion appeared an hour later. Massive, silent, wrapped in pine forests like a sleeping beast. The Hale estate, a place that looked less like a home and more like a monument built to bury memories. The iron gates opened slowly, groaning as if warning her to turn back. But she didn't. She couldn't. Inside the mansion, the air was thick old wood, colder air, and an unsettling stillness that settled in the bones. Ava stood in the main hall, her small frame swallowed by marble floors, arched ceilings, and portraits of stern-faced ancestors she didn't recognize. The sound of footsteps echoed. Heavy, measured. Unhurried, Ava turned. There he was. Marcus Hale, tall for his age, broad-shouldered, silver hair combed neatly, eyes sharp enough to slice through stone, a face carved by decades of storms. He didn't smile. He never did, according to the town. Ava Carter, he said quietly. His voice was deep, steady, and lonely. She lowered her gaze, unsure what to say. You are safe here, he said after a long silence. No one will touch your sister again. Ava nodded, but her heartbeat didn't slow. He stepped closer. Before anything begins, he said, there is something you must know. Ava looked up, confused. His jaw tightened. I am not the man people think I am. Ava froze. He held her gaze, and for the first time she saw something she never expected in his eyes, a secret, a painful one, a truth that could change everything. Ava's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean? She whispered, her voice barely steady. Marcus Hale stood tall in front of her, the dim chandelier light carving shadows across his stern face. But in his eyes, those cold, feared, untouchable eyes, something trembled, something human. People talk, he said slowly. They always have. They created a version of me that was easier to fear than understand. But the truth is, he hesitated, as if forcing the words out. There are things about my past that no one in this town knows, things that made me the way I am. Ava didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Not because she trusted him, but because this moment felt like stepping into a room where the walls whispered. Marcus motioned toward the hallway. Come, there is something I need to show you. Ava followed him, her footsteps soft against the marble. The hall was lined with old portraits, men in suits, women in gowns, each one staring down at her as if judging her presence. They stopped in front of a closed wooden door. Marcus rested his hand on the knob but didn't turn it. For a second, he looked vulnerable. "This room," he said quietly, "has been locked for 10 years. Ava felt a faint chill. "What are you showing it to me?" His jaw clenched. "Because if you are going to live in this mansion, if you are going to carry my name, you deserve to know who I really am." He finally opened the door. Ava inhaled sharply. The room wasn't cold or dusty like she imagined. It was warm, soft, almost glowing. A child's room. Small wooden toys neatly arranged on a shelf. A tiny bed with a blue blanket. Drawings taped to the wall, crayon hearts, messy suns, stick figures holding hands. And at the center, a photograph. A woman holding a laughing boy of about 5. The woman was beautiful, gentle eyes, warm smile, and the boy looked just like Marcus. Same sharp features, same determined eyes. Ava stepped closer. Who are they? Marcus didn't move. He stared at the photo as if trapped inside it. "My wife," he said, his voice cracking for the first time. "And my son." Ava's eyes widened. "You were married?" "Yes." His voice was a heavy whisper. 12 years ago. "What happened to them?" He swallowed hard. "They died." Ava's heart twisted. I'm so sorry." He shook his head slowly. "It wasn't an accident. It wasn't fate. It was an attack." His voice turned raw, almost unrecognizable. "Someone wanted to hurt me. They failed to destroy my business. So they destroyed my family." Ava covered her mouth. Marcus continued, his eyes distant, haunted. "I was supposed to be with them that night, but I stayed late in the office, and because of that, I lived." He exhaled shakily. "After that, I shut down. I became the man people talk about, cold, cruel, heartless." He looked at her. "But that wasn't who I was. It was what grief turned me into." Ava felt something inside her shift. The monster she had imagined wasn't standing in front of her. This was a man who had been shattered, piece by brutal piece. Still, one question clawed at her. "Why marry me?" she whispered. "There are hundreds of women who would say yes to your wealth, your power, your name." Marcus stared into the empty child's room. "You're different, Ava Carter." "How?" "You made a decision out of love, not fear. You sacrificed your freedom to protect someone else. I saw it in your eyes at the courthouse." He paused. "I married for love once. It destroyed me. This time I need a marriage that keeps me alive." Ava's chest tightened. Alive. Not loved. Not saved. Just alive. The weight of his words settled heavily between them. They left the room, Marcus locking the door quietly behind them. Ava walked down the hallway in silence, her mind spinning in a storm she hadn't prepared for. She didn't fear him now. But she didn't understand him either. Back in the main hall, Marcus turned to her. "There are rules in this house," he said, simple but important. Ava nodded slowly. "I'm listening." "You are free to walk anywhere on the first floor. If you need something, the staff will help you. My study and the East Wing are off limits." He watched her closely, assessing her reaction. And one more thing, this marriage will remain private for now. The world doesn't need to know the details. Ava frowned. Private? But the town already. Let them talk, he said, and they don't matter. Ava looked away, her voice barely audible. And me? Do I matter? The question caught him off guard. He didn't answer right away. In fact, he looked almost stunned. You matter enough, he said quietly, that I'm trying. A strange ache spread through her chest. Because despite the coldness in his voice, despite the walls he had built around himself, despite everything they had been forced into, she believed him. Ava's room was on the second floor, a beautiful space with long curtains, warm amber lighting, and a balcony that overlooked the forest. A maid named Elena showed her around. You will be safe here, Miss Ava, Elena said warmly. Mr. Hale protects the people he cares for in his own way. Ava wasn't sure if that was comforting or terrifying. When Elena left, Ava sank onto the bed, burying her face in her hands. What was happening to her life? One day, she was working double shifts at the local diner. The next, she was living in a mansion with a man who carried a decade of grief in his eyes. She wasn't afraid of Marcus anymore. But she was afraid of the future. She didn't know his expectations. She didn't know her place here. She didn't know how long she could carry this weight on her shoulders. A knock echoed softly. Ava stood. The door opened. Marcus was standing there, hands behind his back, shoulders stiff, expression unreadable. I realize, he said, that I never properly welcomed you. Ava swallowed. He extended a small velvet box. Confusion flickered across her face. What is this? A ring, he said simply. For the wedding? We had only on paper. Ava opened the box. Inside was a delicate silver ring with a single small diamond symbol. Elegant, nothing like the flashy jewels wealthy men use to show off their power. Ava touched it gently. It's beautiful. It belonged to my wife, Marcus said. Ava froze. Are you sure? I am. He held her gaze. It's time someone worthy wears it again. Ava felt her throat tighten. Not because of the ring, not because of the gesture, but because she saw it, a flicker of trust. The first piece of a wall cracking open. She slipped the ring onto her finger. Marcus nodded once, quietly. Then he said something she didn't expect. Ava, this house hasn't had light in a long time. He paused. You are the first person to bring any since she died. Ava's heart beat unevenly, because suddenly, this wasn't a deal anymore. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was the beginning of something neither of them understood. But both of them felt. The sound of rain softened as the night deepened, but the storm inside Aurora had only grown heavier. She stood in the middle of the grand hallway of the mansion, her hands trembling, her breath shaking, her heart pounding like it was trying to escape her chest. Across from her, Ethan braced his hand against the wall, like a man who had finally dropped the weight he'd been carrying his entire life. The truth hung between them. Raw, heavy, irreversible. Aurora stepped closer. Tell me everything. No more secrets. Ethan didn't look at her at first. His eyes drifted toward a half-open door, the room he had forbidden everyone to enter. The room she had always wondered about. The room she now knew contained the truth he feared more than death. Finally, he nodded. "Come with me." Aurora followed him. Not because she wasn't afraid, but because she loved him enough to face whatever truth he had buried. He pushed the door open. The room was dim, silent, and frozen in time. A rocking chair in the corner. Walls painted a soft blue. Small wooden toys on a shelf. A framed ultrasound picture on the table. Aurora covered her mouth with her hand. Her knees weakened. "This," she whispered, "this was your child's room." Ethan nodded slowly, his throat tightening as he forced the words out. "My son." He paused. "Liam." Aurora felt the air thicken like grief itself had taken physical form. Ethan walked towards the crib that stood untouched. Dust settled on its edges. He traced the wooden bars with a shaking hand. "He died before he was born," Ethan said. 7 years ago. Aurora closed her eyes, feeling the weight of his pain in her own chest. "My wife Madeline died the same night," he continued, his voice breaking. "Complications. The doctors tried. They tried everything, but I lost them both within an hour." Aurora's heartbeat slowed. Everything she had never understood about him suddenly made sense. His coldness, his silence, his distance, his anger, his fear. He wasn't protecting himself. He was protecting memories. Ethan stood there like a statue carved out of sorrow. "I shut this room that night," he whispered, "and I shut down myself. I never opened it again. I couldn't, because walking in here meant accepting that they were both gone." Aurora stepped closer, fighting her own tears. "And marrying you," he continued, "felt like betraying them. But letting fraud charges destroy your family felt even worse. I didn't know what to do." Aurora placed her hand gently on his arm. "You saved my family," she said softly. "No." Ethan shook his head. "I saved myself from being the villain again. I thought maybe marrying you would keep the ghosts quiet. Maybe it would give me a purpose." He swallowed hard. "But it just reminded me of everything I lost." Aurora's voice barely emerged. "And what about now?" Ethan finally met her eyes. "Now I see that I hurt you, and you didn't deserve that, not even for a moment." Finally, Aurora thought. Finally, he sees. She stepped closer until her forehead nearly touched his chest. "You didn't hurt me," she whispered. "You were hurting, and you didn't know how to stop." His breath faltered. She continued, "Pain doesn't make you unworthy, Ethan. Loss doesn't make you unlovable." He froze like no one had said these words to him in years. Aurora took his hand. He didn't pull away. "Let me stay," she whispered, "not out of duty, not out of fear, but because I want to help you heal." Ethan closed his eyes. "You shouldn't carry my broken pieces," he whispered. "Then let me teach you how to hold them," she said softly. His shoulders trembled. Ethan Grant, the man the world called stone-hearted, merciless, cold-blooded, broke down silently as Aurora wrapped her arms around him and held him with a tenderness he hadn't felt since the day his world collapsed. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Their grief, their fear, their brokenness. Everything existed in the space between them, yet nothing felt heavy anymore. Aurora finally stepped back slightly and looked up at him. Ethan, what do you want now? He inhaled deeply. I want, he said slowly, to stop running from my past, to stop punishing myself. And he paused. And I want to give this marriage a real chance, not because I'm trapped, but because you have become the first light in a very long darkness. Aurora's breath caught. And what if I say yes? She asked. Then, Ethan whispered, I will spend every day proving that saving your family wasn't the only good decision I ever made. A tear escaped Aurora's eye. Then yes, she whispered, I'm staying. Ethan took her hand, firmly, gently, like something precious he wasn't willing to lose again. And Aurora, his voice softened in a way she had never heard before. You deserved the truth, all of it, and from here on, you'll have nothing less. She smiled faintly, not out of joy, but out of relief. A new beginning. One shaped not by fear, not by secrets, not by sacrifice, but by choice. Ethan squeezed her hand and whispered, Welcome home? Aurora leaned her head against his chest. For the first time since she entered this house, the silence didn't feel haunting. It felt peaceful. It felt like healing. It felt like hope. Pain changes people, but love has the power to heal. Some endings hurt, but they also make us stronger. If you felt the emotion, like the video and subscribe to our channel.